In this video, we're going to talk about 9.1 Objective 1, where we define concepts related to hypothesis testing and statistical significance. Let's go ahead and get started. What is a hypothesis in statistics, and what is meant by a hypothesis test in statistics? A hypothesis is a claim about a population parameter, such as a population proportion P or a population mean mu, or some other characteristic of a population. That's A. And what is meant by a hypothesis test in statistics? A hypothesis test is a standard procedure for testing a claim about the value of a population parameter. In short, someone makes a claim that the population value is something. You can't test everything in the population, but you can take a sample that should be representative of the population using good statistical methods, and then you say, well, I'm going to give a fairly wide margin of error for variance that could happen just due to randomness, and I'm going to say that if the stated parameter is outside of my 95% confidence interval or my 99% confidence interval, or you'll see how we do it later, but is in this region that we call a rejection region, then I have very good evidence to reject that claim that somebody made about the population parameter. My sample gives good evidence that the actual mean or the actual population proportion might be higher or lower, something like that. So what are the two possible outcomes of a hypothesis test, and what do they mean? Can such a test have an outcome of accepting the null hypothesis? No, we're not going to accept the null hypothesis. We're either going to reject the null hypothesis, which is option A, or we're going to fail to reject the null hypothesis, which is B. And so when we reject the null hypothesis, then there's sufficient evidence to support the other hypothesis called the alternative hypothesis. When we fail to reject the null hypothesis, that's how I state that, fail to reject the null hypothesis, then there's not enough evidence to support the alternative hypothesis. One of those two hypotheses will be your claim. Your claim is either a statement of equality or it's a statement of inequality. And the null hypothesis is always going to be a statement of equality, and the alternative hypothesis will always be a statement of inequality. Again, we'll get to more of that later. Can such a test have an outcome of accepting the null hypothesis? No. We don't accept that default condition of equality. We either reject that default condition of equality or we fail to reject it. And our decision is based very specifically on our level of confidence or our level of significance. The null hypothesis is the starting assumption. That's why it's got a sub-zero or not, NAUGHT, why it's called the null hypothesis. The hypothesis test may not give us reason to reject this starting assumption, but it cannot by itself give us a reason to conclude that the starting assumption is true. So if we were given different evidence, if we were given a different level of significance, we might come to a different decision, right? All right, that's it for this video. We'll come back next time and talk about 9.1 Objective 2. See you for the next video.